Hello friends, David Paulides, Can-Am Missing Project. This is the executive producer, Huck. Huck's had a tiring day today. Yeah, just like girl. She's sleeping. She goes, Dad, just leave me alone. I don't want to play executive producer right now. Okay, we'll leave you alone. She's a good girl. And we've got a full show for you today. Before I get going too much, I want to remind you, I'll have the link on here to go and watch the trailer for our upcoming movie. No, it's not the new Missing 411 National Park movie. This is something else. It's a movie about Sasquatch. I was asked to do it a little over 2 years ago. It's one of those projects I just don't talk about. I just go out and do it. And I have a lot of those going on. Not movies, but big projects. Go watch the trailer and then come back and tell us what you think. Now this segment, I saw this article today in the news, and it absolutely blew my mind. I'll read it to you. Elderly man attacked by bear while on a lawnmower dies in hospice care of injuries. Extensive and not survivable injuries. Vernon Patton, 72, was fatally injured in a rare bear attack, Mulberry Mountain, Arkansas. An elderly Arkansas man who was brutally mauled by a black bear earlier this month has died from extensive and ultimately not survivable injuries. Patton, 72, had been in hospice care since September 3rd, 2025. Died from his injuries on Sunday. Keith Stevens, a spokesman for the Arkansas Fish and Game Commission, said, Patton was riding a tractor on Mulberry Mountain in Ozark when a young 70-pound, that's small, male black bear attacked, leaving him covered in severe cuts and puncture wounds to his head and arms, Stevens said earlier this month. The 72-year-old son arrived as he was being attacked and threw rocks at the creature to ward it off. The bear attacked Patton on his face, arms, and upper body. Game wardens responded to the scene and fatally shot the bear. The animal later tested negative for both distemper and rabies. After the vicious attack, Patton was transported to Washington Regional Hospital in Fayetteville for surgery. He was later moved to the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences Center and then later to the Little Rock. His injuries were extensive and ultimately not survivable, the family said. This has been an extraordinarily difficult time for our family, and we are deeply grateful for the outpouring of support. The family continued, we also want to extend our heartfelt thanks to the medical teams who are providing exceptional care to everyone who has offered their prayers and kindness. Bear attacks are exceptionally rare in Kansas. The last bear attack Stevens said he was aware of happened in the 19th century. We don't have records back that far, Stevens previously said, noting there are some news articles that talk about bear attacks in the 1850s. I've been here 25 years and we haven't had one. Our authorities have not been able to piece together what may have caused the attack. Game wardens are investigating. Oh, but hold your taters. Now, you just heard the game warden say he's been in this area 25 years and doesn't know about any attacks like that. October 3rd, 2025. Arkansas logs what looks like a second fatal bear attack in a month. Just a month after a Franklin County man was fatally attacked by a black bear, investigators say they suspect the recent death of a Springfield, Missouri man who had been camping in Newton County was also the result of a bear attack. The victim, a 60-year-old man who was camping alone in the Ozark National Forest at the Sam Thrones Recreation Area near Mount Judea, was found dead Thursday by Newton County Sheriff's Office, according to Sheriff Glenn Wheeler. The camper's body was discovered after his family notified the sheriff's office that he hadn't been heard of in a couple of days. My deputy responded up there, found the camp in disarray, and found evidence of a struggle and an injury. Then we later found the victim in the woods, Wheeler told the Arkansas Times. There were injuries that I would consider consistent with a large animal or large carnivore. Keith Stevens, the chief of communications for the Arkansas Fish and Game Commission, shared that there was evidence that the man's body had been dragged a significant way from where he was camping. He was open-air camping with his sleeping bag on a cot. From that point, he'd been dragged 180 feet. Neither Wheeler nor Stephen is 100% certain that the attacker was a bear. Let me read that again. While neither Wheeler nor Stevens is 100% certain that the attacker was a bear, signs point to it being the case. Everything indicates it was, Wheeler said. The victim is currently at the crime lab. There will be an autopsy completed soon, and we'll be able to say more about that at that point. One of our biologists went out there last night before it got dark, and there were definitely paw prints in that area, Stevens said. There are a lot of bears in that area. Fish and Game is actively searching for the bear. We're setting some traps in the area. We're putting some game cans out. Hopefully we can get a picture of it, Stevens said. This is right in the middle of bear country, so it's going to be difficult to tell if it's the bear or just another bear. Wheeler said that before the victim stopped communicating with his family, he texted them a picture of a small bear in his camp on Tuesday morning. Whether the bear in the photo is the one that attacked the man is unclear, but Stevens said the team of the Fish and Game is using the image as a place to start. If we get a really big male bear, then it's probably not that bear. But if a smaller yearling, the chances are better. Bear attacks are exceedingly rare, especially in Arkansas. Before the September incident, the last documented bear attack in Arkansas, as far as anyone can tell, took place in 2006, and the state's last fatal attack dates back to 1892. I don't even know how to put it into words to tell you the truth. These things just don't happen, Stevens said. It just seems so bizarre. It's not even in my realm of comprehension. I'm really in shock today. Actually, when I told you about it, I thought they were just kidding when they give me the hard time about the last one. It's obviously not a joking matter. Wheeler said he wants people to exercise caution, but also recognize that the recent incidents are anomalous. I don't know if it's a pattern developing or not. I want people to be careful in the woods. Whether you're camping or hiking or whatever, use some common sense. Being bear-aware, as Wheeler puts it, is fairly simple. If you're camping in the woods, keep your food put away, especially when you're sleeping. Yeah, not only keeping your food away, keeping it far away from where you sleep. Never, ever sleep with food in your tent. If you see a bear, don't try to feed or approach it. Make some noise, scare it away. Have something with you to protect yourself, whether that be a firearm or bear spray. The U.S. Forest Service has temporarily closed Sam's Thrones recreation area to better allow officials to continue looking for the culprit bear. And I think this is important. This is Mulberry Mountain area where the man was attacked off his tractor. And this is Judea Mountain where the man was attacked in the cot. 50 air miles separate the two locations. Friends, something's up. Something's up. And what do I mean by that? If you followed me for a while, you know I told you about the night of the grizzly in Glacier National Park. What happened there that night has never happened in recorded history. 2 different grizzly bears attacked 2 different people 14 miles apart inside the park and killed them within hours of each other. Different bear, different location. This has never happened before. And now 2 bears within a month killed 2 people in Arkansas. For the people living in black bear country, which means California, Oregon, Missouri, Florida. Black bears, when they attack you, they intend to eat you. Black bears attacking you intend to eat you. So you fight back with everything you've got in your life. Don't curl up in a ball because they're just going to chew on you and take pieces of skin off you. You fight with your life. Punch them in the nose if you can. Gouge their eyes. Kick with everything you can. Don't give up. They're expecting you to give up. Don't give up. Fight for your life, because it is. Grizzly bear, entirely different scenario. Grizzly bear don't eat people. They don't like people. They don't even want to be around people. If you have a grizzly bear encounter and you get attacked, it's because you either scared them or you intimidated them in some way. And if you get attacked by a grizzly bear, roll yourself into a ball, protect your head, curl up, and don't move. Because if they think you're dead, they'll leave. They're not going to gnaw on you. You're not going to win a fight with them. That's why you always, in my humble world, in grizzly bear territory, I always have a big gun and bear spray. If I can see them far enough away, I'll disperse the bear spray. But if I'm in an area where bear spray won't work, meaning the bear's right in front of me, 50 feet, and the wind's blowing in my face, I can't use bear spray. It's going to blow right back and disable me. So you have to know your environment. I was dumbfounded when I read that. I've never heard of two black bears in that Missouri area killing people like that ever. Either have they. So, very bizarre. Now, during my research, I came across an unusual story. One of the oldest stories I've ever heard about. If you follow my work, you know I've said that water, swamps, bogs, for some reason, missing people are attached to these. The title of this article is Tragic Death of a Child in Mountain Township in Canada in 1859. Little Annie Montgomery left her aunt's home to go to her own home. Had to cross a swamp path. Was never seen again. Neighbors searched for 2 weeks. Just a small bit of clothing was found. This is a story as was told. One of the stories which a visitor to Mountain Township is sure to hear is that which relates to the tragic fate of Annie Maria Montgomery, 10 years old and 11 months, who lost her life in the Great Swamp in the Mountain Township in the year 1859. Some 4 or 5 years ago, the old-time stuff carried a brief reference to this sad story. Today, further details of the tragedy are provided by Mr. T.W. Scoose. When he was a boy, Mr. Scoose's home was in the mountain, and his family lived only a few miles from that of the Montgomery family. Mr. Scoose was only 5 years old when little Annie Montgomery got lost in the swamp, but he and family members distinctly remember what happened and prevailed at the time. Some of the incidents which occurred during that 2 weeks for the search of the child while it lasted had a big magnitude on the community. His father, Thomas Scoose, was one of the hundreds who took part in the search. His cousin actually wrote a poem about it. J. Montgomery was a cousin of the lost child and given to Mr. Scoose that has treasured the poem for years. This is fairly well defined. There was a fairly well-defined path from the home of John Kennedy, the girl's uncle, across the swamp to the girl's own home. The path was about a half a mile across. The girl made it safely when she went to visit her aunt, but she returned. She evidently got somehow off the path. The swamp was not that long. Search was extensive, and the family and neighbors all assisted. It appeared that the search was hopeless. Search lasted fully 2 weeks, and hundreds of farmers participated. The girl was never found. It's like I've told you before. swamps, bogs. That 1859, that is probably one of the longest cases I've ever recognized. Now, case I'm going to tell you about. Recent case. And I'm referencing a case I told you about maybe 2 weeks ago. The case I told you about, just a quick review, because it's so applicable, involved a girl named Elaine Long in Australia. She was 5 years old, missing November 4th, 1945. It's now 1925, 80 years later. She was the only child of Mr. and Mrs. William Long, a resident of Border Town, South Australia. You kind of remembering this now? She was missing for 3 days. She was found 8 miles from where she was last seen, and the trackers said she walked 50 miles. Do you remember this? Now, I started to look into this new case that just happened. And it's just 300 miles from the location I just told you about. It's kind of weird. I think it's weird. Every place in the world, 300 miles from a case I just told you about randomly. The case involves a young boy named Gus Lamont. Let's picture Gus. Now, if you remember back, when I've told you about cases in the past, that several times I get the feeling that some of the kids that are taken, and I'm not dissing Gus 1%, I'm just saying, some of the kids that are taken kind of look like girls. Could Gus have been mistaken for a girl? 4 years old, missing September 27th, 2025, last seen at 5 p.m. by his grandmother playing on a dirt mound on their super remote property in southern Australia. So, this is Border Town, where Elaine Long disappeared. 300 miles northwest, also in South Australia, at the Oak Park Station, in the middle of the same sort of open desert kind of shrub, Gus disappears. This is Adelaide, the biggest city, and look at it, it's almost an equidistance from each location. That's another weird thing. Now, I can guarantee that nobody on Gus's case remotely knew about Elaine's case. I guarantee it. So, Gus is playing on a dirt mound out in front of his grandparents' home on a sheep farm on a super rural location. The grandmother goes outside the house at 5 o'clock, sees Gus playing on this dirt mound, goes back in. 5:30, she comes back to call him in for dinner. Not there. Calls for him, yells for him. Nothing. The location is a place called Oak Park Station, South Australia. 25 miles south of Utah. It's a small community of sheep ranchers. The family owns a big sheep herding business on 14,800 acres, about 181 square miles. They have 3,000 sheep and goats, and there's wallabies and kangaroos in the area. Now, they don't have any bears, no mountain lions. Now, this is interesting. When you think about rural locations, in my mind, I think, well, abduction's out of the question, because anybody driving up an Australian dirt road, you can see them coming from 10 miles away by the dirt cloud. But let's pretend that maybe somebody did try to get in there. Well, a neighbor specifically was interviewed by the news, and the news said, well, is there a possibility there's an abduction? And they said, no. Even though it is a public road, you've got to go through 6 different gates to get to that residence. Nobody's coming up there. So there you go. So once the grandmother couldn't locate Gus, she called for more family members, called his name incessantly, got no response. Family searched for a couple hours, got more friends, more employees to come look. Early that evening, Gus's family called the police. Now let's hold your taters. I've always told you that those remote locations are the most dangerous locations to disappear from. Why? Because resources are so thin. Adelaide, I checked it on a map, is a 4-hour drive. It says it's 175 miles, but it's 175 rough miles on dirt roads. Well, the first police officers, South Australia police, arrive, and they did the right thing. They interviewed the parents, and then they searched the compound. So this is the family compound, and everything around the compound is like this right here. Small scrubs, not higher than your knee. Most of them are about ankle height. There's no trees, there's no anything out there. But you can see that they have a decent sized compound. Now, I even got a picture. There's what it looks like around the compound. Now, even if there was a 4-year-old boy laying down in the dirt, I think you'd see it. So let's keep thinking this through. Police officers that arrived called for more help that first night. They searched through the night. The next day, they had already called for search and rescue teams, and the superintendent called for every available police officer within 100 miles. And they got 50 police officers on scene there that next morning. That's pretty good. I mean, that's not nearly enough, but it's a good start. And they searched the family compound, which is what they should have done. And you saw how big it is. Now, 50 people could search that all day and not search every crevice, crack, behind walls, etc. And believe me, I've been doing this long enough that small kids get into weird things. Septic tanks, all kinds of weird stuff. Well, they searched it a second time that day, and then they started searching outwards. September 28th, more officers arrived. 50 police officers were on scene. Searches were organized by the superintendent. They had already called for an Aboriginal tracker that was familiar with the area, and they requested more assistance and searchers. The next day, on the 29th, an Aboriginal searcher got there, and about 3/4 of the way through the day, he stopped and he found one track 500 feet from the compound out in the middle of the dirt. And it matched the track and the size of Gus's. But he looked at it and he said, you know, that track could be anywhere from 5 days to 2 weeks old. And then he spent the next 2 hours looking on either side of that track. And amazingly, he found nothing. How's that possible? He also said that he found some fox tracks and one cat track. And that was it. I can't tell you how odd that is for a professional tracker to find one track. I'm not sure I've ever heard that. September 30th. Now remember, Gus disappeared on the 27th. September 30th, police superintendent had requested 50 Australian military men to respond, and he got 48. And they also got a police helicopter in there. They had drones flying the previous day. They had multiple canine teams there for the previous few days. So, and they also had requested 50 police cadets from Adelaide that were in the police academy, and they were en route. So this was all good. One major issue that really wasn't made clear to the press until after several days is nobody knew the direction of travel of Gus. So you have a location right here, and you have all of this area around it to search. Now, the further out the search gets, the bigger the area to search gets. Rather than Gus going a specific direction and you following the tracks out and meandering out that way, they had an enormous job. On October 1st, the superintendent of the search was being questioned by the news groups. You could tell he was getting frustrated. This is a quote. "A 4-year-old doesn't disappear into thin air. He has to be somewhere." What would your response be to that? I gotta say, I've been involved in researching too many cases to say, I don't know, maybe some kids do disappear. He also explained that a 4-year-old boy isn't likely to survive more than 4 days without food and water. Without water, that's the most severe point. There was a pond nearby that had been searched by Australian divers. It wasn't a very deep pond. Nobody was in it. They also used SOS, they called them volunteers, search and rescue volunteers, trail bikes, little motorcycle bikes, ATVs, drones, Aboriginal trackers, canines, helicopters, and ground pounders. And they were reportedly focusing on that first 1.5 mile radius from the point last seen, which makes sense. Actually, I think it would be prudent to go out to 3 miles from the point last seen. But again, the further out you go, the more area you got to search. On October 2nd, Gus had now been gone over 100 hours. Police said it was a pure recovery mission at this point because they didn't think he could live that long. The family got a family friend to make an emotional plea to the press. I never saw any direct family member interviewed by the press or make a statement. Kind of in summary, the search and rescue commander claimed that they had searched 181 square miles. Wow. So 10 miles long, 10 miles wide, that'd be 100 square miles. That's a lot. Or about 14,800 acres. Now, they said they searched that. I want to know what that means. Did they fly over it? Is that what they consider searching? Or did they cover it shoulder to shoulder with ground pounders? The only thorough way to guarantee that you're not missing a small one in a field is you walk it shoulder to shoulder. It's the only way. Now, this was really troubling to me. The supervisor stated on average they had 50 searchers on the ground every day. That's way too small a number for a 4-year-old boy missing in the middle of nowhere. Far too small. They needed at least 200. And they never said if they ever used cadaver dogs. They said they had dogs, but they never said they had cadaver dogs. Now, once the search is over, and they're saying that the boy's dead, why didn't they bring in cadaver dogs? And at the end, they did say that the compound was searched a third time. Now, once the search and rescue was terminated, they said that no clothing of the boys was ever found. They had no direction of travel. They said that the chance of human abduction was very remote. I would say it's way under 1%. That wouldn't even be on my radar. I would say that there's a chance the boy crawled into some small place on the compound. You say, Dave, why do you say that? Hold your taters. So we have history, because I've taught you that a 5-year-old girl could walk 50 miles in that same environment. Exactly the same. How far could a 4-year-old boy walk? He was described by his family as adventurous and a good walker. How far could he walk? If the girl walked 50 miles and wandered, could the boy walk 40 miles? Could he walk 30 miles? Maybe he walked outside the search zone. So if they used 50 per day, 50 people per day, they could not cover each zone around that compound. Each zone meaning, here's the location. Each zone is like a 45-degree angle from the other, or a 90-degree angle from the other. They couldn't cover it. There's not enough people. The time of the disappearance was between 5 and 5:30. Optimum time, according to my research, for missing people under missing 411, 4 p.m. Close. Very, very close. If we spread cases out by decades, nobody in the area would ever remember Elaine Long's case. Now, you and I do. And the friends in Australia that are watching this do now. I guarantee the police know nothing about it. And they would poo-poo the case because they wouldn't want to answer to that 50 miles an hour, 50 miles that she wandered. When Gus disappeared, his grandmother was his guardian. There was never any mention of the father. Canines they brought to the scene, they never found a scent trail. Aboriginal trackers can't find tracks leaving the compound. I want you to put your critical thinking hat on very, very well. Aboriginal trackers from Australia, the best in the world, they find no tracks leaving that compound. Canines, they don't pick up a scent trail leaving the compound. So let's hold everyone's taters right there. What evidence is there Gus left that compound? There's none. There's none that he walked off the compound. And that leaves very few options, friends. Very few. Option number one, he's on that compound somewhere, and they just haven't found him. Option number two, he was removed from that compound by something, by someone, somewhere. It really hurts my emotions to talk about these young kids that disappear and aren't found. I mean, we just talked about the young boy, Darius McDougall, in Alberta. And now we have another young boy, this time in Australia. And please, don't direct any emotional anger at the grandmother. The boy she said, and the family said, he had never left before. Thank you for being here. You are appreciated. Please make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. Please, something's happening. Thousands of you are no longer subscribed. And everyone who I asked to go look if they're subscribed, many of you find out you're unsubscribed, and you didn't unsubscribe. Many of you say, well, I just checked back anyhow, but I'm not getting notifications. I don't know what to do. So if you could post this to your social media, I'd greatly appreciate it. If you can make sure you're subscribed, that's appreciated. And I have 850 videos on here. Please go back and watch them in your turn it on when you're doing your work so you can just have it on in the background. That helps us immensely. And be kind. Kindness is grand. Every day, I look at Huck and I thank her. And I'm super kind to her because I appreciate her companionship so much. I went and got my hair cut the other day. Lady started talking to me. I could tell she was lonely, so I just engaged her and we talked for half an hour. I was there. She said she's been cutting hair for like 50 years. Thank you. Be safe. Be kind. Paulides out.